This video was recorded in front of a live virtual audience. Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. Today we're going to be reviewing a very special Chanel bag. It's hiding in its little pouch. It is the 255 Mini. Now I have purchased this one in June of 2019. And now as I'm reviewing it, it is January 2021. It's been a while. I've realized I've done the unboxing of it, got this one from 31 Rue CAMBON in Paris and everything, but I haven't dedicated a proper review of this bag. And now more than ever, it really warrants a review and also a little, catching up with wear and tear, how it works, because this one has gained in popularity a lot, because the first release of this bag was with the Metiers collection, the Paris/New York/Egypt collection, released in 31 Rue CAMBON as a premiere on June 4th, 2019, which is when I bought it. Unexpectedly, didn't even know that they made this bag. So, since then, it was kind of like a seasonal, it was released as a tryout. It didn't hit the runway. It was, they were testing the grounds and it worked very well for them. It sold like hotcakes. And so now it's become a classic. They release them every season, different material, different color, different hardware perhaps. But what I will be reviewing today is the first ever released 255 Mini Square single flap. And the first release, of course, had to come out in the original hardware, the gold, the shiny, glossy, or champagne hardware, Coco Chanel's original hardware, basically. So before I get to the review, I would like to thank all my members and all my patrons for helping sustain the channel. And I would also like to remind you, if you like my videos, to consider subscribing to my channel. And because the more of you subscribe, and the more YouTube helps out and pushes my videos on to the rest of the world so that we can actually grow quicker. Because only 8% of you are actually subscribed to my channel, even though all of you are watching. So you can become a member of my channel and also a patron. I am superdacob, all spelled together, on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for listening. Now let's get to the review. So after a year and a half has passed, or even more, let's say, so June, 1 year and a half, almost, no, 2 years. Almost, no? Half a year, then 1 full year. So 1.5 years have passed since the Mini 255 has been released. Since 1.5 years, there have been 3 or 4 seasons in terms of fashion collections, and each one of them delivered different variations of the 255 Mini. The first edition came out in several colorways, but the classic one is black, aged calfskin with glossy or champagne gold hardware. In that same year, there was a red one, a beautiful red color, but very, very delicate. A lot of people complained about the color, about color transfer from their clothes onto the bag. Then there was a very interesting emerald green with gold hardware, a navy blue. And then after that, they came out with a gray, and then they changed materials. And the second edition already did not have the glossy gold hardware. This was just limited to the first edition. After that, they brought out, the aged gold hardware and stuck to that more or less. Since then, there is a version also with the black hardware. Then they started experimenting with materials. Tweeds came out, velvets. There hasn't been a jersey one yet. But what has happened since June 2019, when this one was released, since then, there have been several price increases. So this little bag went up considerably in price since its first release. And its first release had, for Chanel standards, a relatively fair price. But Chanel realized pretty soon, oh, this is selling like hotcakes. Let's up the price immediately. Whatever sells really a lot at Chanel starts getting the price upped. Things that don't sell very well usually maintain the same price for years. So the fact that this one went up in price several times proves that it is a bestseller for Chanel. So let's get into the bag. The chain I actually have a little, I don't know if this is centimeters or inches. Oh, it has both, inches and centimeters. So the drop of the chain, if we're just going to calculate like this, it's about, you guys, it's going to be hard to measure. We're going to approximate here, okay? So it's 28, it's 28 centimeters or about 11 inches. And then if we do the, if we pull the chain, if we pull it like this, then we get about 21 inches or 54 centimeters. The bag has something great, even though it's not the original version of a 255 because it has a single flap. But the great thing about it is that it does have a single flap. I love the double flap, the classic 255, but having a small shape like this with one single flap is really practical because, first of all, it makes it so much easier to access. And finally, we have a top flap that does not have a pocket, does not have a zipper, does not have that cut in the leather, does not have that metal zipper that once you close it really dents and scratches the leather underneath, which it does with the inner flap of the double flap. Here, we're spared that burden of having to always deal with that crazy zipper that nobody needs, really. It's just symbolically there. One thing I do have here still that I did not, I took off the stickers off of everywhere from the bag except the inside where you don't really see it, but I kept the sticker for a reason. I'm going to tell you why. There, you can still see that sticker is still on there because of course it's difficult with these gold leathers. I always confuse leather with metal. Metal, so sorry. Sometimes you got to think with me. If I say leather but I mean metal and I say gold leather, you're going to know I mean metal. When you close it, it really hits on, you know, the metal against metal, but this sticker really saves that chroming and that gold plating because it kind of just gives it a little bit of a, it protects it when you close it. It doesn't just scratch on top of each other because, you know, this hardware does scratch easily. It's highly glossy hardware. However, as much as I've used this bag, and I have used it a lot, I have to say that the shiny gold hardware holds on very well. After 1.5 years of use, it holds up much better than the aged gold hardware that I have on my double flap 255, because as you close it and open it, up here it always scratches a little. Now you see a little bit, there is a bit of use there. It has a little bit of signs of use, which is totally fine. But the aged gold hardware has actually a patina added to it. And when you unlock and lock the lock, you keep scratching away that patina, so it becomes more glossy with time. You don't have that issue with the champagne gold hardware. So it shows much less use, wear and tear there. Now, of course, you're never going to see that little tiny dent because when you're wearing the bag, of course, you're going to have it closed. And there, the covered lock covers that little scratch that the lock always kind of gives to the bag as you use it, which is totally fine. You know, that's part of the nature of this little bag. So there's that. It does have its fold. It's super cute. They didn't have to do it, but they did it. This is extra work. It takes extra time to actually fold it to give it this flat little envelope. Oh, I love this flat look. It's just, I know some people don't like, I love the fact that it's so flat. So for those of you who are buying this bag and think, oh my gosh, why is it folded? And then you try to stuff it to bring it back into shape, don't. This is the beauty of it. It's so much more elegant when it's folded than when it's all stuffed and open. So I was thrilled to see that they really went with the folding on the first edition of these minis. They really went for this aged look. To me, it's just so poetic. It's amazing. So the bag, interestingly, does not come with red interior or the burgundy interior, so it is leather inside, but black. So the mini is going to have that black interior leather, and this one is made in France. And it's really hard to see because the light, how do we get the light in there? I mean, you guys, I would have to project a light in it. Hold on. I give up. I try in every video. It's just whatever. It is what it is. So now this one does have an interior pocket right there, where I have a little paper here to keep it separated from the leather so that the leathers don't touch each other long term. And then it has also a zip pocket. And you can put some more stuff in there. Here I have my authenticity card wrapped in paper. So strangely enough, you got these two flat pockets right behind each other. So you could hide some money in the zip pocket. That's very well protected. Now, you see, this is something we don't have in the 255 double flap. So you don't have a zip pocket on the inside of the main compartment of the bag. Instead, they give you the double flap, and the double flap is supposed to protect the bag a bit more. It doesn't really. If somebody wants to get into your bag, they're going to get into your bag. What does protect your valuables the most is having this flap sealed and then putting your money in the zipper here and then closing the zipper. You put your money here and then you zip it close, or your credit card or whatever. And the cool thing, and this is the genius part about this flap, about this fold, is that thanks to this fold, your zipper pull in here is protected because the zipper falls right in the fold, and it's really hard to access it if somebody were to kind of get into your bag, if it's hanging crossbody on the back, on your back while you're walking, because the fold covers the zipper, so it's really hard to get to the zipper. So the zipper, you see, the fold literally covers the zipper. You can't really see it. That's the cool part about this extra fold of the bag. So I would always keep the fold as long as you can. Of course, it does have a simpler construction. People have been writing me since I unboxed this bag a year and a half ago. Dacob, is the bag actually worse quality than the 255 double flap because it seems to be simpler? It's not worse quality. It's great quality. It's just that it's simpler. I mean, you don't have a bag-in-bag concept. The double flap is literally a bag inside a bag. Here it's a single bag, it's one bag, and the flap is not stitched onto the interior flap and interior bag, which means that there's less danger of you making mistakes and utilizing the bag improperly, hence putting stuff in that slit that's in between the two flaps, the upper flap and the inner and the second flap. A lot of people put stuff in between those two flaps. You should not, because that stretches out these stitches that keep the front and back flap together. Now, we don't have a front and back flap here because we only have one flap, but this is the same stitch there. And if you do open your bag and pull it open too much and you try to stretch out this fold, you might damage that stitch, even with this bag. So I never recommend unfolding these bags, because if you do unfold it, you get here, you get this issue there. You can't open it. On this corner, you can completely open the bag, but not back here because you have that stitch. And that stitch is the most important part of these bags that people always forget about, that stitch there. It really gives a dynamic to the bag, whether it be a single flap 255 or a double flap. It just gives it that dynamic that you cannot just stuff them to death. They're not meant to be stuffed. This is not supposed to be a tank. This is a luxurious object that's meant to embellish your life, but it's not supposed, you're not supposed to carry your entire house in this thing. It has that delicate shape and form. This is also a very small size, but even if you were to buy the double flap, the biggest size, the 228, which is like a maxi, don't overstuff it. Because if you overstuff it, with the bigger shape of the bag, the chain is also bigger. I mean, the distance between the rivets here, the grommets, is also longer because it's a bigger bag. So by pulling the bag and having the bag have a lot of weight because you're stuffing it too much, then you're going to get a dent here because it's going to fold within itself, because this leather is very soft. And the more you use the aged calfskin within the context of a 255, the more you use it, the softer it gets. That's how this bag lives. That's how it's built to be. It's built to be comfortable and soft to use. So by overstuffing your bag, the more you overstuff it, and the heavier you stuff it, and the sooner it's going to lose its shape. Obviously, this is not a hard-shaped bag. It's a soft bag. The back pocket. Now again, you could check out my video, don't do this, or if you do this, you will ruin your Chanel bag. I'm going to post it in the description box down below. But same applies for the mini, and I said this in that video. I said, if you know, these pockets, these flat pockets were designed in the 50s. In the 50s, you didn't have smartphones and chubby, thick, technical gadgets that you want to take with you on the go. So this pocket is not made to stuff a phone in it. It just isn't. It's made for little, you know, papers, a ticket for the subway, or little notes, or what have you. Something flat, nothing thick. Two reasons why. First, if you put something thick in here, you're going to stretch out this pocket and eventually damage the stitching, which keeps the pocket attached to the bag. Second reason is by putting really thick stuff in here, the pocket is going to become very plump. And so when you wear the bag and you rub it against your clothes, you're going to kind of, this part of the leather here is going to get, the finish is going to get tarnished really easily. And if you purchase the 255 mini in a lighter color, this is the area where the bag is going to get decoloration or color transfer, or the leather is just going to rub and the whole finish is going to, you know, you're going to damage the bag and you're going to dry it out. So if you don't do the pocket situation, don't stuff the pocket, then mostly this part of the bag is going to touch your body. And there you got to be also careful, but it's going to flow softer and it's going to consume the bag with time. The wear is going to show in a much more elegant and more homogeneous manner, because the bag is supposed to be used. So it's supposed to show use, but it can show it in an elegant way. It can age in a beautiful way, but it can also age in an ugly way. It all depends on how you wear it, of course, how you use it. What is fascinating about the first release of the 255 mini, as I mentioned briefly at the beginning of this video, but I'll repeat it here and go more into detail, it's the chain. This champagne gold hardware that many people say is not really something that you want to get because it's easily scratchable. It's better to get the aged gold hardware. I love both, but let me tell you, it's just the same as I made the video when I spoke about the difference between Chanel caviar leather and Chanel lambskin leather. I said long-term, lambskin is more durable than caviar leather. I know it sounds like a paradox, but check out my video on that topic, and I explain in that video why that is. I'm going to post the video in the card section up here and also in the description box down below. Same reasoning, different obviously because the metal is a different situation than leather, but same applies to the hardware. The glossy or champagne gold hardware is actually more resistant long-term than the aged gold hardware. This one, the way Chanel makes it and how they plate it and chrome it, is really more robust. It shows less wear and tear with time. It's incredible. It really does. And I have all their hardware variations to test out, and I have, you know, the 255 with the ruthenium, with the aged, and with the champagne. And you just gotta be prepared. If you're gonna go for the aged gold hardware, it's gonna age even more. And it arrives to you with a mattified patina, and the more you use it, the more it's gonna glossify itself. This one is going to stay glossy. This one is not going to alter itself. It's not going to change. It might have a scratch here and there, but that's it. And it's not going to chip. 1.5 years of this bag and it hasn't chipped yet. And if it were going to chip somewhere, it was probably going to be in this area here where you always kind of have to close and open the lock, but it has not. Very important, however, whenever you do close the bag, when you put the little flap on top, always push it, you know, push it on, and like I always, with my middle finger, I press it and I turn the lock. Why do I do this? Because if you don't, this might kind of stay open a little, and if you don't push it in enough, then you risk that the little lock here, so if this is too open, that by turning this, you kind of hit the border here, and you could then dent the hardware. So you always have to be sure to press in. Or here, you see I'm also pressing it. I didn't even think about it. It just came naturally to me. I always instinctively press the flap before I lock it. So you can also press it like this, press it in, and then it just flows, the lock. And that's how you protect your hardware in that particular spot, that it doesn't get dents. Other than that, because it's such a small bag, the distance between these rivets or rings is, or grommets, is short, which is good because that allows this kind of almost like a bone structure, like the backbone of the bag, this bent side, to remain nice and straight. Why am I saying this? Because in the double flaps, the interior flap functions also as sustain, as like a backbone to the upper flap. So the inner flap helps maintain the straight line of the upper flap. Not having the inner flap, the second flap, you use that structural, almost like a crutch, you know, that holds the structure of the bag. So if this bag had a single flap and were triple the size, it would collapse within itself. This would kind of, you would see a bend here because the chains are heavy. So with a bigger distance between these grommets, if it were from here to here, the chain would pull on the two sides, and here we would get a dent. But because it has this small size, because it is a mini, this is perfection. It will just not lose its shape. That's really good. That's another plus side to the 255 minis. Now, they have gone, as I mentioned previously, considerably up in price. I think they're not worth it anymore within the price range that they are at right now, because it's just not. I think Chanel has outpriced themselves out of the price range game, what's acceptable. However, I have to say, if they were to come out with this mini in a jersey, I would have to bite the bullet, because black jersey is just my dream. In mini form, to die for. And they haven't come out with it yet. Of course, if they came out with a jersey version, it would be cheaper. It would cost less than the leather version. So still, it would cost too much. But that's kind of the only option that I would leave open to eventually biting the bullet if they do come out with a jersey version of the mini. Black jersey. Now, they did come out with a jersey version of the mini last year, but it had a really ugly print all over it with like camellias and logos. It was really bad, like blue, white, terrible. And the price was, yeah, it was okay, but the color was terrible. And I would really need a black jersey, simple black jersey. That would be like, but they haven't made it yet. So I do also have the 255 Mini in velvet, which is also an adorable bag. I have, however, I have done an unboxing of that bag and a review of that bag on my channel, so you could check those videos out as well. Same size as this one. However, it reacts differently to the touch because, of course, it's velvet on the outside, leather on the inside. And it folds a bit less because it's a chubby one, because the velvet is really thick, and the leather inside utilized for the inside of the bag is a different type of leather than the one used for their other classics. I mean, this is a typical leather that they use also for the interior leather, I mean, is the same type of leather they use for their rectangular and square minis, with the timeless classic lock, the double C lock. So it's the same leather used for this one. They used a different one, a different interior leather for the velvet bag. They needed a structurally thicker leather for the interior of the velvet 255 because the velvet is softer than the outer leather. So here they could afford to use a thinner leather inside. But for the velvet 255 Mini, they needed a thicker leather inside to sustain the shape of the velvet on top. So that would be the review. Now, you know, a lot of people, when I do reviews of bags, they say, wow, you didn't even show us what fits inside. I find that quite vulgar. I know a lot of people want to know what fits inside the bag. Not much. I mean, depends what type of phone you have, perfume, tissues, a little wallet. But when people start stuffing bags and trying to prove, what do you want to prove? It's a small bag. It's an accessory. When people try to kind of sell you the bag by saying, so much fits inside, that's not the point. I don't care how much fits inside. I don't want too much to fit inside here. It's like the bag itself is the object. Putting stuff in it is almost irrelevant. I see this, oh, by the way, I mentioned this in almost all my videos, but these tiny bags are also gorgeous as necklaces. Now, I know you got to be a bit more funky for that, but look, just wearing it literally around the neck. I mean, I would have to go too far away from the microphone to show you now. You won't be able to hear me anymore, but I can just kind of get the idea. Really, the length is really cool. I mean, depending on your height, but for me it works very well. Just letting it hang like this. Like a necklace, almost. I mean, so yes, when I wear this out and about, I usually have a shopper with me, an extra shopper where I put all the heavy stuff. This is just, it's an accessory. This enhances your mood more than stuffing all your essentials in there. That's not what this bag is about, honestly. And I know this sounds crazy. You're going to say, wait, why do you need a bag if you're not going to put stuff in it? No, this is more than just a bag. This is, especially in this size, it's a token, you know. It's like having a part of Coco Chanel with you all the time. It's really special to me. You do you, but to me it's that special, so I don't need to stuff it, and I don't need to have such a tiny bag and show you videos about how many telephones and key clays and all that stuff fits inside. It's always the same video. There's another billion videos out there that show you what fits inside the bag. I deliver the heritage. The other videos can deliver what fits inside. You know, there's a little bit for everybody. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let's get to the chat quickly and see. George is sending us a lot of camellias and flowers. Thank you so much. Red Cupid Bow Lip says, ooh, I love the 255 Mini. Aisha says, gorgeous. Just Another Roger, Dacob, you are lucky to have that variation of Mini 255. Yeah, thank you, Just Another Roger. I was so lucky because honestly, you guys, I didn't even know that they released this bag back in 2019. And I, truth be told, I went to the Rue CAMBON boutique and I was looking for their Métier d'Art collection, and I wanted the golden, you know, rectangular mini gold fake croc a bag. And before I was shown that bag, the one of these wardrobe thingies, wall panels was opened, and this bag was in there, and I was like, oh, what is that? I've never seen that size before. Give it to me. And the sales assistant was like, oh yeah, this just arrived today. And she was like dismissing it. I was like, wait, don't you dismiss a 255? Show it to me. And then she showed it to me, and I was just like, this was the first one she handed to me, and I grabbed it. I was like, okay, this is, are you kidding me? This is it. This is what I've been waiting for years. A single flap, smaller version, super cute, like a little jewel. Aisha said, I think I would find a single flap easier. Of course it's easier. It's easier to use. MK, they improved the gold plating on the hardware then. I used to own one from the first batch of fall-winter 2005, and although the leather quality was incredible, the hardware was chipping pretty badly. Oh no, it's not chipping anymore. No. Even the aged gold hardware metal is not chipping. Just another Roger. I wonder if the burgundy interior is painted or stained. Stained? No, it's not stained. I mean, it's treated leather, so it's dyed. They dye the leather. They don't paint the leather. Caleb, I was surprised it didn't come out with these sooner, considering mini bags have been all the rage for years. I got one that they came out with this year, but I'll spare to share what the hardware is. I know which one you got. But, Caleb, not true. The 255 already existed in a mini form, double flap. Smaller than this one because it's a little bit lower, different cut, but this length, just smaller, as a double flap. It already existed for many years. It just, they made it on and off because it didn't sell that well. And then they revamped it, took one flap out, made it a little bit higher, and then they brought out the mini single flap, just 2019. Needless to say, it was almost double the price, the double flap small, or the double flap mini. Good, Sharon, how you doing, sweetie? Hello, Dacob, and how's all doing? I've had to deal with lots of bad news today. Oh, sorry to hear that. But here you are, helping me through the darkness. That is the rest of my evening. Oh, we're going to send you light. Love and light. MK, this is exactly what my essays told me when I tore my boy bag in 2011. This is not a handy bag, but a fashion accessory. Just put your essentials inside and carry a fabric tote along with your Chanel bag. Of course. Of course, this is that. I mean, I know it sounds crazy and people are going to tell you, but I paid so much money for it, so it better be a tank. I'm like, well, then buy a tank. Don't buy a bag pretending like for that money you need a tank. Buy a tank. Don't buy a bag. It's like, it's as simple as that. The budget luxurist, all my bags are lambskin and they have lasted. Yes, lambskin is very durable despite what people think, you know. I'm Louis says, why nowadays it feels like luxury bags are high maintenance? This is something I mentioned in my other live stream the other day, and actually in the video that I posted today about don't do this, otherwise you're going to ruin your bag. The problem is the prices for these bags have gone up considerably to a point where these prices aren't sustainable anymore at all. Or not justifiable anymore, meaning, yes, a Chanel bag, even in its inception, the 255, even in the 50s and 60s, was expensive, but it was more affordable. Like you could afford to buy, you know, a new 255 every year if you damaged it. So people were less afraid to use them. These were considered consumer goods. You buy it and you use it, you fully use it. And then you buy a new one once it gets damaged. Nowadays, you can get one bag for the price for which you could have gotten 4 bags back then. So of course, in our minds, this concept has set in of we have to treasure this bag as if it were our own baby because it's so expensive. But it's just because it's so expensive that we have kind of gotten accustomed to finding ways to preserve them even more and baby them even more, because they cost so much that we know that we can't just buy a new one tomorrow if something happens to this one. You treat your bags with more ease if they're cheaper, because you know that if something happens to them, you know, even subconsciously, you know that you could afford another one. But having to save up money to buy a bag like this, and then thinking, well, is it ever going to happen again? Will I ever be able to buy another one again? Then, like, of course, you're going to think twice before you wear it. You're going to think twice before you pair it with what clothes. If it's a lighter leather, you're worried about color transfer and all that stuff that people weren't worried about in the past because the prices weren't that crazy. The crazy prices make us consumers also more crazy in terms of pampering these bags. So the logic behind it is really because of the price, not because these bags deserve that pampering. It's just that we think, oh my gosh, I've just dropped so much money on this thing. I best protect it because, you know, we do somehow feel also guilty for having spent so much money for a dream, ultimately. And you don't want a dream to end. And because we do see them as dreams, see, back then they saw these as consumer goods. They saw these as something you just use and you enjoy it. Today we see it as a dream. Today it feels like something unattainable. It feels like once you do have the dream, you just want to live that dream forever. You don't want the dream to ever end. You don't want to wake up from that dream. So you try to do everything to preserve that dream. And that's not what used to be the case with these bags, you know, back in the day, in the 50s and 60s and 70s. It was a totally different concept. But now it's all a dream. We're living inside a very expensive dream. Emily says, well, yeah, I agree. But to me, luxury is made to be comfortable. When you buy luxury and worry too much about it, it loses its charm. Depends what it is to you. You know, it depends what it means to you. It can be something that you covet, that you just treasure for yourself, also enjoy it in the comfort of your own home as a collector's piece, or it could be something that you buy to just use, you know, every day. Really, the luxury, you define what it means to you, you know. Red Cupid Bolip says, very stylish little bag. Thank you, sweetie. MK says to Caleb, oh yes, it was the price at that time. My mom used to take me with her to Rue CAMBON in the late 1980s, early 1990s. And I remember vividly the price of a medium classic flap was 7,000 francs, which is 1,200 euro. Diego, how you doing? I need to know why you don't like smartphones. Oh, I really don't like smartphones. Do you think if COCO still alive would approve the CC logo turn lock by Carl? That's a good question. She was not a big fan of having it on clothing. She liked clothes to be very clean from all that. I'm not so sure, you know, COCO didn't even have the logo here. You see the Chanel there? There you have it. COCO's version of the 255 did not have this Chanel. It was just like up here, this flat gold was down there too. There was no Chanel visible on the bag. This is something Carl added. So she might not have been that much of a fan of having that logo visible. I think she would not have went there. I don't think she would have. She did have the double C on, of course, perfumes and cosmetics, but that's different. That's intimate. It's a package. It's something you buy and you keep at home, a cream, a perfume, you keep it on your, you know, in your boudoir, wherever, on your vanity. But an item that you wear out and about. And also she believed in the power of her design. She believed in the power of her design. She believed that a Chanel is recognizable from a mile away because of the impeccable cut, color combination and materials, you know, and shape. So she thought, what logo? The dress is the logo. This bag is the logo. And she was right. She was right about it because she was a genius in designing these things. She didn't need a logo. And just another Roger says, buying luxury is a purpose you create. The budget luxurist, it's no longer commodity. The cost to wear is at a premium. Yes. Caleb says, oh, thanks. I had no idea. I searched lots secondhand for smaller than the 255 size in the color of hardware, which should not be named, but couldn't find anything. Were these just in traditional hardware? Yes, these were in traditional hardware, ruthenium gold hardware, and they were available in a variety of matelassé, quilting, and chevron. PC, how you doing, sweetie? Wow, so thrilled, another live stream. Yes, every Saturday. MK says they have never reissued bags like the ones from the 90s with that almost dark blue buttery lambskin yet. Do you think they will ever? My mom still owns a classic flap with this leather. They have. I have a wonderful extra mini flat from 2013 or 14 in that buttery lambskin. That they do from time to time. It's just really rare to find that right batch with that right treated leather, with the hides treated in the right way. It's very rare nowadays, but it happens once in a blue moon. Dundism, how expensive is the bigger 255 bag in gunmetal hardware? Depending on the size of the bag, of course, but it can go like $300, $400, $500, $600 bucks more. MK says there used to be 255 in champagne gold or aged silver hardware back in 2005. I think they came out with shiny silver hardware a few years after. They did. No. It came out right away. And actually the first ruthenium hardware came out with a white 255 bag. Gurchana says, to be honest, since I don't like spending money on luxury, and I usually don't, I get my luxury fix on your channel. Oh, thanks, Gurchana. I mean, we talk about these. This is a passion of mine, and I love to share this love and this passion. So I'm so happy that you enjoy it, and that it doesn't come across from my end as, like showing off and stuff. That's not who I am. And so I appreciate it so much when somebody writes me that they just enjoy it for just the joy of sharing information and passion on these objects, which of course they're so futile, but they can cause a lot of happiness too, because of the history that they carry and the beautiful story, the complicated, beautiful but very complicated story of Coco Chanel's life. It's within this little bag, and it always reminds me of her, and it makes me feel like she's close to me. PC, I like the point that Coco believed in the power of the design. No need to slap logos on things as if we needed nudging to see it. Huge testimony of the power of her talent. Hear, hear. Caleb says to MK, I was meaning to see if Dacob knew if they were in the black hardware. I really wanted the smallest size in this hardware, so I waited and waited for it, and it finally released. I mean, yeah, the mini double flap did not have the So Black hardware. Not that I know of. I've never seen one. But of course, we do have the So Black hardware on the single flap mini. Dacob, your knowledge of 255 and Chanel in general is so admirable. Thanks for always sharing what is before my times in knowledge about what was available, keeping me educated. Oh, thank you, Caleb, so much for listening to me blabber on. PC says, yes, many times I live vicariously through Dacob's knowledge of fashion. Oh, thank you, PC. Thank you so much. The Budget Luxurist said, I've learned a lot from your channel. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Well, thank you. What a wonderful way to end this video. Thank you so much for the chat, for helping me review this beautiful little tiny nugget within this big history of Chanel. Thank you guys so much. I love this bag. I would repurchase it over and over and over again if Chanel wouldn't raise the prices over and over and over again. I think they've outpriced themselves. They're definitely, I think that they're not worth the money anymore. With 2020, they have just upped the prices to a point where, yeah, it's not sustainable anymore. I mean, it's not justifiable anymore. So I was very lucky to have gotten this when the price was still relatively normal. And also, This sounds maybe a bit corny, but I'm like so happy to be living in a time. I mean, I wish I you know, I lived in the time of Coco Chanel, but to at least be in a time where she left behind these beautiful pieces of design and also beautiful perfumes, beautiful heritage. It feels right to me. You know, it feels like something I want to be a part of. And so thank you, Coco, for that. And to the brand, as corny as it is, you know, and as sometimes as stingy as they are, you know, greedy as they are to grab as much money as possible, still forget about that for a second and just think about the designers that are working at Chanel. The designers don't decide the prices. It's a totally different team that decides the prices, right? The designer has no input on that. So I want to thank the designers, because a lot of them still work to keep the spirit of Coco alive. It happens sometimes, rarely. Sometimes with just a few pieces in every collection are the designers allowed to really go back to the heritage. Like, I'm going to show you Baby Yoda again. But this is the only brooch I got in 2020, and it is the most representative of Chanel. I was shocked when I saw. I was like, really? They made something so symbolically Chanel? Baby Yoda snatched the brooch, but this little tiny brooch is so quintessentially Chanel. And it's rare that they make a piece like, but they do. Sometimes they do, and when they do, Dacob is there hunting and sniping, stuff like that. It's a beautiful little piece. It could have been done in the 80s also. It's just majestic. And so for pieces like that, I live, you know, and they make me still believe that Coco is alive up there, and like kind of saying like, hey, make this a little bit like that rather than like this, you know. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, consider subscribing to my channel and also becoming a member of my channel. Just push the join button next to the subscription button, and then you get extra perks like special emojis. You get an extra badge with a perfume bottle that fills up the longer you are a member of the channel. You get to see videos before they hit YouTube. You get to see videos ad-free, and you get to see exclusive videos that only come to my members and my patrons. So also consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Super Dacob, all spelled together. And while we're on the topic of Chanel, you can also follow my Instagram profiles that I curate on Coco Chanel. One is called Coco Chanel is in my house, all spelled together, where I showcase my collection and everything the Chanel brand is up to these days. The other profile, Instagram profile, is called Coco Chanel Privé, all spelled together, where I curate kind of visuals, images of Coco during her life. Everything, it's as if, you know, she was still alive. I tried to keep her spirit alive. That's the other profile. And then you could also follow me on Super Dacob, all spelled together, my main Instagram profile. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, never forget to never give up on love. Love you all. See you soon. Take care. Bye. Mwah.